Give ear, O my people, to my teaching. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings from of old. Things that we have heard and known, that our ancestors have told us. We will not hide them from their children. We will tell to the coming generation the glorious deeds of the Lord and his might, and the wonders that he has done.
Now, don't panic. Nothing's wrong with your computer. Everything is actually okay. If everything looks like it's coming to you from the earliest 20th century, then that's exactly what it's supposed to be. As this morning, we joined to celebrate Box Hill Baptist Church's 120th anniversary. Clearly, gathering together through the vessels of YouTube and Zoom isn't how we would have liked to have celebrated such a remarkable occasion. If we'd had our way, we probably would have all been gathered here in this space, sharing stories together, giving thanks to God, and joining in fellowship with celebrations and, of course, cake. But instead, we gather together online. And that's okay, because if there's one thing this church has been over these 120 years, it has been dedicated to caring for the local community, including those both within and outside of these walls. And so taking the necessary precautions at this time to show our love and God's love to the community is, I think, the best way to commemorate the legacy of this church. And of course, we look forward to welcoming you all in our 121st year. This morning we'll be delving back into those 120 years in word and in song, and our guest sermon this week actually comes from Reverend Field, who will be visiting us all the way from 1918, with a sermon that he shared in this very place, if not this very building, at that year's anniversary service. Now clearly a lot has changed since then, and of course not just the building. And if some of the songs we sing today and the words shared may cause you to raise an eyebrow, I encourage you to be okay with that and use this time as an opportunity to reflect on what has changed over that time in our understanding and mission and the ways in which we speak of and engage with our world. Like many in our congregation, I've been staring at these chairs for the first time I walked into a Sunday service. And over the years, I've paid them relatively little notice, shoving them around casually as the need arose, or more than occasionally using them as step ladders to get up on top of the baptistry here. So I was quite stunned to be looking back at some old photos this week and see these very same chairs from some of the earliest pictures back in the earlier 20th century. So these chairs will likely be hearing this sermon for the second time. And in some ways, these chairs, I think, are also a parable for our church. Practical, unassuming, not shouting from the rooftops or making a fuss, but just quietly serving the community that they have been in from their first day, in whatever way it can, even if it is about being a stepladder occasionally. As we join together in worship, we give thanks to God for the heart of service and hospitality that He has created and continues to create in this place, and look forward to the news stories that God will also tell in this place.
Christianity is a time-conscious religion. The first Christians looked forward eagerly to the imminent return of their Lord. The medieval church instituted the cycle of saints' days, adjusted to the seasons of the year. Pope Gregory gave us our modern calendar. The free churches, as we Baptists and Methodists called ourselves, frowned upon the pagan revelry that often accompanied the traditional saints' days, but we had our holy days as well, like Cup Day picnics and church and Sunday school anniversaries. The free churches were missionary faiths, eager to win new converts, open up new mission fields and build new churches. While the established churches followed the cycle of the seasons, Baptists had a more linear idea of time and measured it in terms of their progress towards their goal, winning the world for Christ. In my child's mind, church anniversaries ran a poor second to Sunday school anniversaries. The custom of Sunday school anniversaries began about 200 years ago in England, where they usually coincided with Whitsun or Pentecost, and the scholars, dressed in their Sunday best, paraded through the streets. At our Sunday school anniversaries too, the children, dressed in their best, seated on a special platform and trained to sing, were the main attraction. Church anniversaries, on the other hand, seem to have been more like a kind of spiritual AGM, with reports on the church's membership and finances, and anniversary sermons given by the most renowned preachers of the denomination. By my parents' time, they were also quite elaborate occasions, with special music, even orchestras and renowned soloists, accompanied of course by a tea meeting, a teetotal extravaganza in which the women of the congregation competed for applause with their scones and cream sponges. I look back very fondly on the anniversaries of my youth, but without too much nostalgia. They were the froth on the great wave of post-war religious boom. In the wave itself there were things of enduring value, but we can do without the froth, the dressing up and showing off, and the confusion between material and spiritual progress. We can be thankful for the work of our predecessors without assuming that it should be our work too.
Two Samuel 23, 8-23. These are the names of the warriors whom David had. Josheb, Basshebeth, a Tarchemonite, he was the chief of the three. He wielded his spear against 800 whom he killed at one time. Next to him among the three warriors was Eleazar, son of Dodo, son of Ahohi. He was with David when they defied the Philistines, who were gathered there for battle. The Israelites withdrew, but he stood his ground. He struck down the Philistines until his arm grew weary, though his hand clung to the sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day. Then the people came back to him, but only to strip the dead. Next to him was Shammah, son of Agi, the Hararite. The Philistines gathered together at Lehi, where there was a plot of ground full of lentils, and the army fled from the Philistines. But he took his stand in the middle of the plot, defended it, and killed the Philistines, and the Lord brought about a great victory. Towards the beginning of harvest, 3 of the 30 chiefs went down to join David at the cave of Adullam, while a band of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. David was then in the stronghold, and the garrison of the Philistines was then at Bethlehem. David said longingly, "Oh, that someone would give me water to drink from the well of Bethlehem that is by the gate." Then the 3 warriors broke through the camp of the Philistines, drew water from the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and brought it to David. But he would not drink of it. He poured it out to the Lord. For he said, "The Lord forbid that I should do this. Can I drink the blood of the men who went at the risk of their lives?" Therefore he would not drink it. The 3 warriors did these things. Now Abishai, son of Zeruiah, the brother of Joab, was chief of the 30. With his spear he fought against 300 men and killed them, and won a name beside the 3. He was the most renowned of the 30, and became their commander, but he did not attain to the 3. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was a valiant warrior from Kabzeel, a doer of great deeds. He struck down 2 sons of Ariel of Moab. He also went down and killed a lion in a pit on the day when snow had fallen. And he killed an Egyptian, a handsome man. The Egyptian had a spear in his hand, but Benaiah went against him with a staff, snatched the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and killed him with his own spear. Such were the things Benaiah son of Jehoiada did, and won a name beside the 3 warriors. He was renowned among the 30, but he did not attain to the 3. And David put him in charge of his bodyguard. This is the word of the Lord.
The chapter from which our text is taken is occupied chiefly with a recital of the names of the soldier heroes, whose brave deeds had in God's good providence helped to build up the kingdom under David's wise and courageous leadership. Mention being made of some of the gallant actions of the principal men. These be the names of the mighty men whom David had. It's interesting to note the successive bodies of troops which surrounded the king. The outside circle consisted of the large standing army which David had gathered together, a great fighting force of 300,000 men. Then there is mention made of the 30 chief, leaders serving under their royal commander, possibly his staff officers. Next we have the distinguished 3, who made themselves famous by a magnificent dash through the garrison of the Philistines to bring water from the well at Bethlehem to gratify the longing of their beloved leader. Probably these 3 were Abishai and Benaiah, both of whom received commendations for their many brave deeds, and another hero whose name is unrecorded. In addition to and above these, there appears another trio of worthies, Adino, Eleazar, and Shammah, designated the first 3. So we find described in these old Hebrew records a series of military circles, the centre, David the king, next the first 3, and then the 3 of the 30 chief, then the 30, and finally the 300,000. Benaiah, one of the 3 in the second circle, was a splendid man, a skillful and fearless soldier, loved and trusted by the king. He was great of axe, a bold, dashing, and withal successful leader of men. But our text announces, and one cannot help but feel the pathos of this statement, that he attained not to the first 3. On this anniversary Sunday, we are looking back upon the past year with much thankfulness to God. How graciously he has dealt with us, how abundantly he has blessed us. The measure of success we have enjoyed has come because of the Benaiahs in the congregation. God has seen those whose labours he could bless. It is indeed a pleasant task to express one gratitude for the devoted and loyal souls who have been labouring so unselfishly during the past year. Our activities do not all run in the same direction. Some help in one way, some help in another, and generous service, liberal giving, and earnest intercession have received the smile of God. So we thank God today for the Benaiahs, and for all the good they have done. But he attained not to the first 3. Why? It may be difficult to answer this question concerning Benaiah. Our attempts would be very poor guesswork at the best. But an easier question to reply to is this: have I attained to the first 3? Have I done my very best during the past year? Is there room for improvement in my life and in the service I render as a member of the church? If every member were just like me, what sort of church would my church be? Have I been all on fire for God? Have I been living out the 12th of Romans? Has my life counted for much, for anything at all in the Holy War? These are searching questions, and our text this morning should be to each of us a stirring call to a more consecrated, enthusiastic, and daring service than anything we have rendered in the past. Even a call to attain unto the first 3. These most suggestive circles are found in other parts of Scriptures and deal with various important matters besides service. In Numbers 21, there is the story of the serpent of brass, and the incident foreshadows Christ dying for the world. This is evident from the reference in John 3:14 and 16. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, for God so loved the world. In Leviticus 16, there is described the events which were to take place on the annual Day of Atonement. This clearly is exclusively Jewish, and the death of the sacrifice represents Christ dying for the nation. In Exodus 12, in the Passover lamb, the sprinkling of the blood around the door of each Hebrew home and the Passover meal within the house, we have portrayed Christ dying for the family. And in Genesis 22, the incident of the ram caught in a thicket by his horns, being offered up for a burnt offering in the stead of Isaac, provides a beautiful picture of Christ dying for the individual. In these ever-narrowing circles, we may see what should be the Church's testimony in the matter of the great atoning sacrifice of Calvary. It is a good thing to proclaim the great fact and to confirm its proclamation by sanctified missionary activities, that Christ died for the whole world. It's a good thing when the Church heralds its faith far and wide, that Christ died for Australia, for the nation. It is a good thing when the Church, through its members, declares in various homes that Christ died for the family. But best of all is it when the Church's voice is heard through every one of its adherents in clear, telling testimony that Christ died for the individual. This is the inner circle, the first 3. The Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. The soul who fails to attain to the first 3 here walks in uncertainty and darkness, sustains irreparable loss, and loses its witness to the saving power of the cross. In the religious practices ordained by God to be observed by the people of Israel, we discover another set of circles. First, we have the whole population, the redeemed of the Lord, who are more or less ardent worshippers of Jehovah. Then, from among the tribes, that of Levi was taken by God and consecrated to tabernacle service. And to the Levites was given the peculiar privilege of ministering in holy things. A smaller company is found in the family of Aaron and their descendants, who were set apart as priests and charged with the performance of tabernacle duties and the sacred task of offering the various sacrifices. But there was one man, and only one, who was permitted to draw nearer still to God, to enter the holiest of all, where priests and Levites could never go, and hold personal intercourse with Jehovah. The high priest of Israel, once a year, on the Day of Atonement, went into the presence of God and made intercession for the sins of the people. Now, of course, we know that the high priest is a type of Christ. But for the purpose of our meditation this morning, may we not look upon him as a picture of what the church, in its individual members, might be. For the New Testament teaches us that the veil, which shut out men out from God's presence, has been rent in twain, and that now we have boldness and liberty to enter into the holiest. This is the first three: the inner circle, the place of worship, communion, and intercession. To have it written against our names, he attained not to the first three. So far as these things, so vital to the soul's well-being, are concerned, would be the chronicle of a disastrous failure, the bitter loss of the soul's golden opportunity. In the New Testament, we have brought before us in a similar way the most important matter of fellowship with the Master. Again, we find the circles. The largest consisted of the whole body of the disciples of Jesus. They were his followers and professed devotion to him. The 12 apostles, appointed to be with him, that he might send them forth to preach, formed a lesser ring. Then there was a smaller company still, 3 highly privileged individuals. These were the men who accompanied the Lord on the Mount of Transfiguration, into the death chamber in the home of Jairus, and into the awful shades of Gethsemane: Peter, James, and John. Highly privileged indeed. And yet there was a first three, an inner circle beyond, which Peter and James probably did not attain unto. There was one who got so near to his Lord that he was able to lean his head upon his bosom. One who was such on intimate terms with Jesus that when an exceedingly delicate question was to be put to him, he only could venture upon the task. One who drew near to the cross as the dying agonies of the Son of God were reaching their climax, and to whom the Lord entrusted the care of his mother. This is the inner circle, the first three. It consists of those who so understand their Lord, keep in such close touch with him, enjoy such unbroken, familiar, yet reverent intercourse with him that he is able to trust them and tell them his secrets. They are known as his friends, and wherever they go, men take knowledge of them that they have been with Jesus. The inner circle, the first three. Have I attained to this? Have you? Well, that was all very well for John. He was an exceptional man. But just look at my disposition, environment, intellectual limitation, etc., etc. So we talk and try to excuse ourselves. Let me give you a new and appropriate name, said Jesus. You are called John, but I will add to it the significant word of Boanerges, for you are a son of thunder. Master, cried the disciple later, let me call down fire from heaven and destroy these wretched people who slight and insult you. But divine grace was at work. Boanerges was transfigured, and today we speak of him as the apostle of love. His frailties and tempers notwithstanding, he attained to the first three. The same grace in all its glorious sufficiency avails for us. We also may attain. Let us swing back to our text. Benaniah attained not to the first three. What a pity he missed it. But stay a moment. He had another opportunity given to him, a second chance. Thank God for the second chance. Probably not one of us would be worshipping here today if he did not thus mercifully deal with us. In the glorious reign of King Solomon, when the Hebrew nation reached the very zenith of its greatness and power, Benaiah was appointed commander-in-chief of these ever-victorious armies. No longer is that text true of Benaiah. He had felt the call of the inmost circle so keenly that every sacrifice had been cheerfully borne in order that he might share its glory. Our Lord has said, all things are possible to him that believeth. It was so with Benaiah. He attained unto the first three. And so may we. A new church year is opening before us. Fresh opportunities, potent with eternal possibilities, lie in the pathway we have to tread. Thank God for the second chance. May we, in his kindly providence and by his matchless grace, attain to the first three. Amen.
Everyone Dear Lord, thank you for drawing us into community. In this community that has been a place called home for so many for 120 years. Inspire us with the lives of those before us, those ancient ones who have lived here in faith and opened up and gave away your love to all those who needed it. We recognize their dedication to this place, this people, and this community, that even when their future was uncertain or bleak, they continued in faith that your presence in this community, through your people, was needed. We take courage that the challenges we now face have been faced before and overcome, with your people changed for the better or worse, but strengthened by your Spirit to continue to serve and look forwards. We are thankful that they look beyond the edges of their maps and horizons, reaching out to bring your love and grace to new places in Melbourne, and eventually to reach out and bring people from foreigner shores here, committing ourselves to welcoming the stranger and the refugee. Encourage us with the stories of those who have sought not just to broaden the faith, but deepen it as well, leading the people of God into profound and radical ways, to know you, your love, and your people, building the foundations of a culture of belonging, acceptance, and inclusion which would endure the decades. Loving God, may you change us with a vision to continue here, as a constant presence for those who travel through life, a community of welcome that cares for all our community, believing into what it is still yet to be. Teach us to discern your voice as those before us have discerned your voice, guided by its call and feeding on its promise of life and hope and belonging. May we hear your word, a comforting word in its familiar sound, yet a disturbing word in what speaks anew and longs for us to become. Hold us within the faith of our forebears, those who chose to meet you here in this place, who recognize this thin place where your miracle of grace abides. May we be moved by that grace into all the places that make up our community, sharing what you have given abundantly like an ever-flowing stream. Call us from our past through the voices of our ancestors, in the songs that they have sung, and the prayers that they have spoken, that have shaped peace within this community. And may we join our voice with their voice, in the one great song of love, that will be lived and celebrated yet throughout this congregation, this community, and this world. Amen.